I never believed in second chances. Not really. Life moved forward, and the past stayed buried, or so I thought. It was early autumn when I returned to London. The city had changed. Glass buildings towered where old brick used to stand, and people walked faster, talked less. But some things remained untouched. I checked into the Wilshire Hotel without a second thought. It was a quiet, almost forgotten place, tucked between newer developments. I had stayed there once, years ago, when I was just a boy. I didn't remember much, just fragments. A long hallway, heavy red carpet, and a draft that always found its way under the door. The receptionist gave me the key without looking up. Room 12. As I walked up the narrow staircase, I felt something strange. Not fear, but a kind of weight. Yeah, like the air remembered me. When I opened the door to room 12, everything was just as I expected. Old wallpaper, a wooden desk, and a tall window facing the street. But as I stepped closer, I realized something was wrong. The street outside didn't look like the present. It looked older. It was familiar. I pressed my hand against the glass. It was cold, but what I saw made me forget how to breathe. I was looking at myself. A younger version of me, sitting on the sidewalk with a sketchbook in hand. I remembered that day. I was 8 years old. But how was I seeing it now? I stood there for what felt like hours, staring through the glass. My younger self hadn't moved. He kept sketching, completely unaware that someone was watching from above. I opened the window, half expecting the illusion to vanish, but the wind that rushed in smelled like old autumn, not the kind you find today. It carried the scent of coal, smoke, and wet leaves, the smell of a city that hadn't yet caught up with time, and then something happened. I reached out with my hand, just to see. Just to test the edge between now and then, and I fell through. Not like falling from a building. It was like stepping into water, thick and cold. My ears rang. My vision blurred. But when I could see again, I wasn't in room 12 anymore. I was standing across the street from the hotel. Same building, same brickwork. But everything else had shifted. The cars were older. The street was quieter, and I could hear my own voice. A child's voice. I turned and saw him. Me, 8 years old. Wearing that same green coat I had begged my mother not to make me wear. He looked up, and for a second, I thought he saw me. Why, he just smiled, waved at someone behind me, and ran off. I should have turned back then. I should have walked away, but I didn't. I followed him, not closely, just enough to stay in sight. We passed the park where I used to feed the ducks. The bakery that used to smell like cinnamon and burnt crust. Every corner whispered something familiar, but I wasn't a part of it anymore. I was only watching, and then I remembered what happened that day. It was the day I lost Thomas. He was my best friend. It's the kind you swore you'd never forget. Even though time does its best to make you forget everything, we had an argument that afternoon. Something silly. A broken toy. A shouted word. I walked away angry. He chased me into the street. I never saw the car, but I heard the sound, and then nothing. But now I had the chance to change that. I saw them, myself and Thomas, arguing by the lamppost. I wanted to scream, to run and stop it, but I couldn't just appear out of nowhere. I had no plan, only fear and guilt and years of regret wrapped around my throat, so I did the only thing I could think of. I called out his name, Thomas. He turned, he saw me, and then he stepped back from the road. No sound, no car, no siren. Silence. He was safe. I had done it. I had changed something, but I didn't know yet what it would cost. I stood frozen on the sidewalk, heart racing, breath caught, somewhere between joy and disbelief. Thomas was alive. The accident never happened. I had done what I came for, but then I felt it. A tug deep in my chest, like something was unraveling. Inside me, I stumbled back toward the hotel. The world around me began to blur at the edges. The buildings warped. The sound of the street faded. I could still see the window in room 12 high above, just slightly open. I needed to get back. The staircase inside was colder than I remembered, the hallway darker. I reached the room and slammed the door shut behind me, The window was still there. I touched the glass again. It welcomed me this time. Pulled me through. And just like that, I was back. Back in my time, or so I thought. The wallpaper was a slightly different pattern. The suitcase by the bed wasn't mine. There were new photos on the wall. Smiling faces I didn't recognize. A girl. A woman. Wedding day I never lived. I opened my wallet. My name was still there. But the face in the ID was older. Worn, not mine. I ran to the hallway, down to the lobby. The receptionist looked up. This time Anne smiled like she knew me. Welcome back. Mr. Ward, did your trip go well? I didn't answer, because something was terribly wrong. I left the hotel in a daze. The city looked the same. Cars, buildings, sky, but nothing felt right. People passed me like I was a stranger, their faces unfamiliar, their voices just noise. I went to the old neighborhood, my childhood street. The house I grew up in was still there, but the door was painted blue instead of red. A boy was playing in the yard, a boy I didn't know. When I walked back to the hotel that night, Thomas was waiting by the front steps. Older now, taller, alive. He smiled like we had seen each other yesterday. He called me by a nickname I had forgotten. I felt a moment I felt it again, the joy, the weight lifting. I had saved him, but I couldn't remember anything we had done since that day. Years of memories were missing. Conversations, laughter, even pain. All gone. I sat with him in the lounge, pretending I knew the stories he told. Nodding, smiling, but empty inside. And that's when I realized the truth. When you change the past, it doesn't just rewrite events, it rewrites you. I had stolen back a life I was never meant to live. And in doing so, I had become a ghost in my own story. So I returned to room 12. One last time, the window was still open. Waiting, I stood there for a long while. Watching the world I had made, watching Thomas walk away, full of life I had once taken from him, and I whispered goodbye. Then I stepped through the glass, not to change anything this time, but to let time take its course. Because sometimes, the cost of healing is forgetting what you fixed.